There are perhaps few cars better suited to taking on the urban jungle than the Toyota Camry Hybrid. So, that's exactly where I'm taking it. We're about 20 miles outside of Los Angeles, more commonly known as 2 hours outside of Los Angeles. And today, I'm taking on Toyota's Suburbanite Supreme. And at first glance, it appears we're off to a great start. I think this is the most strikingly handsome Camry Toyota has ever produced. I mean, just look around. There's no bad angle or bad lines on this car. So if the Camry is the claimed king of the suburban jungle, then why have I brought it out to the mountain roads? Well, that's actually pretty simple. I enjoy doing the photography for the cars that I review up here. There's also an added benefit in that I get to push the car a little bit around these winding roads and see what they've got. Now, sure, approximately 3 people watching this review actually care about the handling dynamics of the Camry Hybrid, but it's fun to test out nonetheless. And for the 3 of you who do care and might be snickering and laughing to yourselves, oh, it's a Camry Hybrid, who cares? There is some precedent here, because this is the same basic car that Toyota has used to build the new Camry TRD, which is a legitimate sports sedan. And for the most part, the Camry Hybrid acquits itself pretty well up here. After all, it has independent suspension at all 4 corners, struts up front, and a multi-link suspension out back, which is the same basic setup you're going to find in everything from a Ford Mustang to a BMW 3 Series, and even something like the Porsche 911. Sure, it's not quite as engaging as those cars, it's a Camry Hybrid, but still, the fundamentals are in place. It's going to hang on in the corners pretty well. Though, to its credit, more than a handful of people have had to pull over on one of the various turnouts up here and let me pass, because I'm actually able to hustle this thing through these roads pretty quickly. I'm driving slow for the video now because obviously this is very incriminating otherwise, but it will go pretty quickly through here if you want it to. So, out of the canyons and back into the suburbs, where the Camry Hybrid truly belongs in my opinion. You see, down here, and around town in general, this car makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. First things first, it's very quiet in here. At these low speeds, not only is the cabin pretty well insulated from things, but because it's a hybrid, it does spend quite a lot of time using pure EV to power it at low speed. So there's not much engine noise. Not only is the Camry Hybrid really quiet around town, it's also extremely comfortable. For this XLE hybrid trim, Toyota has definitely geared it towards absolute comfort. I mean, this thing just soaks up broken pavement in a way that is, frankly, astounding. You can smash over potholes like you're in an SUV, and it's just very comfortable, and not much of that comes through to the cabin. Now, I'm not sure if that noise comes up on the cameras. It's quite subtle if you're not paying attention to it, but when this car is in EV mode, it's required by law to make a noise because EVs are otherwise silent. They don't want pedestrians walking out in front of them if they're not paying attention. So this car makes a low speed noise. It's like a whirring, sort of blendery sound almost. And with the windows up, it's rather quiet and unassuming. However, with the windows down, and especially when you lean into the throttle a little bit more, the Camry Hybrid makes a very interesting, I'll call it interesting sound. There's the mixture of the 4-cylinder gasoline engine, which is kind of grating in and of itself, like right there. But there's also a series of whirs and whooshes and the occasional clunk from the hybrid system as it kind of does its thing up there and tries to optimize that range and fuel efficiency. Again, it's subtle, but with the windows down, you will notice it if you're paying attention at all. So the Camry Hybrid may make the occasional funky noise here and there, but overall its road manners are superb. I mean, the ride comfort this thing offers, it does pay dividends in day-to-day use. It's a very relaxing car to get in and drive or get in and ride if you're a passenger. Which is a good thing because as a family sedan, you're most likely going to have a few people in this car at all times. And the good thing is the Camry is a pretty large family sedan. So you can fit people who are 6 foot plus in every seat in here and they'll be pretty comfortable. The other big takeaway with the Camry Hybrid around town, besides the fact that for the most part it's pretty quiet and pretty comfy, is that it's also pretty quick. Now, that's obviously a function of having a hybrid electric powertrain. So the gasoline engine makes a decent amount of power. It's around 175-ish horsepower by itself. But then you factor in the electric powertrain, which offers all of its torque instantaneously right off the line. And you have a very nice driving car with a combined 208 horsepower. So like I'm going 20 miles an hour, if you just mat it, that is more than quick enough for really anyone. So hopping onto the freeway now does expose a slightly different side to the Camry. That soft, cushy ride quality that I praised around town does create the occasional sense of floatiness at high speeds. Occasionally this thing will hit a bump and kind of just bounce and bounce and bounce like your grandmother's old Cadillac. Additionally, I'm sure it comes up on the camera because you guys are the first to nitpick the audio, but there is quite a lot of wind noise in this cabin. Now, obviously, I'm not going deaf in here, and you can hear me speaking quite clearly, but there is a notable ramp up in the amount of wind noise and exterior noise coming from this vehicle. And actually, if you look around the outside of the Camry, you can tell that Toyota knew that was going to be a problem because there are a few subtle aerodynamic tweaks they've made on the outside of the body to try and mitigate wind noise from the mirrors and happening around this glass. And it may have worked to an extent, but it is still unfortunately there. So I've shown you around the Camry. We spent a little bit of time driving the Camry. Now it's time to show you around the inside of the car. After all, this is where you're spending most of your time interacting with it, day in and day out. And fortunately, with this top spec hybrid XLE model, things are very, very good. Just look around. Almost everything you interact with in this cabin is soft touch. So this armrest is nice and padded. The dash is padded. This leather steering wheel feels quite nice. And you just kind of feel around. The materials overall feel pretty nice. Now, there are a few cheap spots here and there, like the door cards, for example, aren't that nice. But for the most part, things in here are pretty good. I'm actually quite a big fan of the way the dashboard is laid out, and right behind the camera, I'll cut to a shot of it, is this excellent looking like fake wood aluminum hybrid trim. It just looks really nice. Then, being a top spec model, obviously there are leather seats. I find these seats supremely comfortable for long distances, which is something some Toyota models have struggled with before. Like, for example, I do not like the seats that you find in the current Corolla. I think after about an hour or so of driving, they just become uncomfortable no matter what you do with your seating position. These guys, very nice, no complaints. Additionally, being an XLE model, they are obviously both heated and cooled, which is very pleasant. And in this Los Angeles winter, when in the mornings it's freezing and in the afternoons it's really hot for some reason, both are getting their work out here and both work quite well. Being a new car, this thing is loaded to the gills with tech. If you've watched any of my other videos, or specifically on the Toyota Corolla Hybrid and the RAV4 Hybrid that I reviewed recently, you know all about a lot of the stuff that's happening in here. So this car has Toyota Safety Sense, which is this suite of safety technology, automatic collision braking. This one has blind spot monitors, rear cross traffic alert, which is one of my personal favorites, where if you're backing up out of a parking space, it can look to the left and right and see if there's any oncoming traffic. That's very helpful. Additionally, it has radar guided cruise control, lane departure warning, and things like that. With Toyota Safety Sense, it's hit and miss. The lane departure warning doesn't really work super well in my experience with any of the Toyotas out there. Emergency collision braking works great. Rear cross traffic alert works great. Blind spot monitoring works great. Overall, it's quite good. Then there are some other Toyota isms in here, like Entune, for example. And I've gone on at some length about Entune, which is Toyota's current infotainment interface. And pretty much everything I've said that applies to the Corolla Hybrid as well as the RAV4 Hybrid applies here. Entune is plain. It doesn't look quite as flashy as what you'd find in some other vehicles, like if you've been in a Subaru with Starlink, that looks really nice, really pops out at you with great graphics. And the current Honda system is also quite nice. This, it looks plain. The trade-off is that it's very, very simple and very, very intuitive, and that's because Entune uses a combination of a touchscreen as well as physical buttons and knobs, which is the correct way to do it. That way, if you're sitting here stationary, you can use a touchscreen. If you're driving and you can't really look at the screen, you can use a knob or push a button. It's clever. So it means there's a lot going on here, but everything is very intuitive. You just look at it for 30 seconds and you got it figured out. Additionally, again, like pretty much every Toyota out there, the basic stuff with Entune, like pairing your phone to it and things like that, it's very simple and takes just seconds to get it going and understand how it all works. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but like the RAV4 I just reviewed a few weeks prior, this also has the optional wireless charging, which is a pretty cool feature. It's right here. It's really slow, but it does work. So if you're in a pinch, you need to charge your phone, put it right down there and you're good to go. The next big thing happening in the interior is JBL audio, and like the RAV4, it's a mixed bag for me. JBL audio in this car, for whatever reason, and for most Toyotas, seems to sound pretty flat and uninspiring at low volume, but you turn the volume up and really crank it up. That's when JBL really comes into its own. So if you're wondering, do I need upgraded JBL audio? Well, if you like to bump your tunes, then yes. Otherwise, just stick with the standard audio system and the standard Entune. Now, there is one piece of tech that I really do like that seems to be a Camry thing, and I'm a really big fan, and there's this little button over here. I keep looking at it. It's camera view. It's a picture of a camera that says view underneath it. You push this button while you're trying to park, for example, and on the screen here is this graphic that has a 360-degree view of the Camry where you are right now. So if you're trying to park your car, like, oh, how close am I to the curb? How close am I to the car next to me? This gives you a 360-degree view and then a bird's eye view looking straight down, showing exactly how close you are to whatever you're trying to park next to. And 360-degree cameras are not breaking tech. You'll find them in a lot of cars, but it's a pretty cool feature nonetheless for a relatively affordable family sedan. And there's one trick about this system that I really like. It's kind of funny. It's very personable. I'm kind of affable to it. There's a settings button up here. Click the settings button, and you're like, well, what does that do? It allows you to pick the color of the Camry on the display. So you can match the Camry on your display to the color of your car in real life. It's one of those things where it's so silly, but it's kind of just a fun little touch to show that they do care. They bother to put this in there. So I currently have the blue Camry selected since my car is blue streak metallic, and you can see that the graphic has changed to a blue Camry. So I have mentioned some of the options and features available on this Camry XLE, but if you're looking at one of these cars in the dealership, you might be wondering, well, how does that correspond to what I'm looking at right now? And so let's do a quick rundown on the window sticker, because Toyota has supplied me with one for this exact car. So, like any window sticker, it shows, the make, the model, the submodel, the VIN, blah, 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 safety ratings. Everything is 5 stars on Camry Hybrid, which is great. And then it comes down to fuel economy. We're looking at 44 mpg city, 47 mpg freeway, and 46 mpg combined. Now, obviously, I test the fuel economy of every car I review, so we're going to get into that in a second, but keep those numbers in mind for now. Now, as is the way with Toyotas, a lot of times they kind of tend to bundle things into packages. So if you get the LE or the XLE or the XSE, whatever it may be, a lot of times you can kind of get those things as is. There's no real standalone options. But for this XLE, let's go over what it does have. So, top to bottom, hybrid synergy drive, I touched on that. So it's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine under the hood with the electric powertrain, good for 208 combined horsepower. It has an electronically controlled continuously variable transmission, ECVT. That's an automatic. Again, pretty standard stuff there. Okay, safety and convenience. Toyota safety sense with a pre-collision system, pedestrian detection, full speed range, dynamic radar guided cruise control, lane departure alert with steering assist, automatic high beams, and a star safety system with VSC, it's stability control, traction control, ABS, braking assist, and smart stop technology, which is basically if you come to a stop, it will turn the engine off. It also has a backup camera, as is federally mandated for all new cars after the model year 2020. This particular car also has the 18-inch alloy wheels, which look quite nice, as you can see from all my exterior panning shots. This car also has the cool upgraded headlights. They are a bi-LED combination headlights with auto on and auto off, as well as the cool LED DRLs that kind of run during the day and give it a very ominous look. Ooh, I should say imperious, not ominous. It's not a scary car. It's an interesting looking car. All right, in the interior, I know I've touched on most, but I'm just gonna go down the list anyway, just so you know you're not missing anything. All right, audio, 7-inch touchscreen with 6 speakers, hands-free Bluetooth, phone and music, USB ports down here and in here. This car also comes with a Sirius XM trial, which is quite nice for me, but that's just a trial, who cares? This also has the 4.2-inch digital display right in here. Again, kind of plain like Entune, but it gets the job done. It shows you your fuel economy, your trip, northeast, south, and west, audio station, and interestingly, a live reading of your tire pressures if you care at all. Okay, this car also has a power driver's seat. That's such a Toyota thing. They'll give you just the power driver's seat, but not the passenger seat. This car also has dual zone climate control, kind of standard nowadays, as well as a smart key system, which is just keyless entry with a push button start. Again, kind of standard stuff nowadays. Okay, now we get to the available standalone options, and unlike some Toyotas that I mentioned previously, this one does have a few standalone options because, like most press cars, this thing is basically fully loaded. This particular car has about $5,000 in options, and unfortunately for you, the most expensive option is the one you definitely should have. That's the $2,375 driver assistance package, which gives you a color head-up display right here in the windshield. Very nice. It reminds you of how fast you're going, the local speed limits, which direction you're going, things like that. It also gives you a few basic prompts if you have the nav going or whatever it may be. That also includes one of my favorite features in this car, which is the bird's eye view camera, which I mentioned before up here. And it also is bundled in with a rear cross traffic alert. Again, a very helpful thing for backing out of tight parking spaces. It just gives you that extra peace of mind when you're backing out that you're not going to hit someone or something. All right, and that also includes the ventilated front seats. Heated seats are obviously standard fare, but getting the ventilated seats is a nice feature, especially in hot climates. Next up is the LED headlights. Regular HIDs are standard. I don't find too much value in that, but for $415, that's kind of a gimme. Now, the next one is the most contentious one, and I've touched on this before, but it's the $1,800 navigation package. Now, like most bundles, it's more than just a navigation system. That includes the premium JBL audio system with dynamic navigation, the big sub in the back, and an amp. Again, you're going to have to get in the car and test out JBL and see if you find value in it. If you like cranking up your tunes, it's really good. Otherwise, you can totally skip over that. You'll be just fine. Now, next up is, surprisingly, the standalone option, the sunroof, $860. Now, I don't like sunroofs in any car. That's because they compromise headroom. But, again, I'm 6'1", and I do have plenty of space. And if you like this, it's $860. I would skip it, but that's just me. Now, the last few charges are the ones that they always get you on, the dumbest charges, things you'll never want, need, and or care about. That is the illuminated door sill enhancements. So if you actually open the door in this car at night, it says Camry in a faint glowing script. That's $300. Again, you don't need it at all. It's just a silly thing they tack on. This car also has the $457 protection package. Dealerships love that. They basically apply those few little pieces of thin, clear protective wrap on like the trunk opening and the door openings, things like that, where you might scuff the door openings. You can totally skip it if your car doesn't come bundled with it automatically. This car has the $199 rear spoiler. It's $200. It's color matched. It looks nice. Fine, I'll give you that one, Toyota. And last but not least, $75 for wheel locks. Ugh, man, what an upcharge. You don't need wheel locks. Wheel locks are stupid. You're gonna lose the key at some point. I'm gonna get your wheels off. You have to go to a tire shop and pay them to remove them. It's a pain in the butt. I hate wheel locks. dumb. Then there is the obviously baked in delivery and handling fee, which on Toyota cars is $955. All in, I hope you're sitting down, this Camry Hybrid as equipped costs $39,995. That's almost $40,000 for a Toyota Camry. Though, as you can see, it's obviously very comfortable, very well equipped, and as you're gonna find out, rather fuel efficient. Now, if the thought of a $40,000 Camry is giving you heart palpitations, I want to give you some context there. Because in 2019, the average new car transaction cost was right around $38,500. So while this is quite expensive, the math does show that when push comes to shove, a lot of people would be able to swing the payments on this car if they really wanted it and if they had to. Okay, so I've talked about the way this car looks, the way it drives, how it feels on the inside, the tech, the features. The only thing left, and perhaps the most important thing, the reason why I left it for the very end, is the fuel economy. With every car, I test the real-world fuel economy, so as soon as I get these cars, I fuel them up, I reset the trip computer, and now it's time to go fill this thing up. I've been driving this car for almost a week now. I've put over 350 miles on it, and it's time to go fill it up. I'm really curious to see what the actual fuel economy is, because as you all know, and as I've learned through this job, the quoted EPA figures, sometimes they're dead on and sometimes they are just way off depending on the car. And I have a hunch that this car is going to do quite well because other Toyota hybrid products I've tested have done quite well. And as a bit of insider trading, I've gone over 350 miles on this car and I haven't even used half a tank of fuel yet in a week. That means that theoretically, if I owned this car, I'd only have to refill it once every other week, which is awesome. That is a luxury in and of itself, not having to worry about going to a gas station as frequently. It's one of those things where you don't think about it, so you have to think about it, and it becomes very annoying and inconvenient for you. So, now that I'm done talking your ear off, let's go see what this bad boy actually did after a week of driving around town, in LA, on the open road, in the mountain roads, everywhere, anywhere. I can take this car. I've taken it, and this is about as average of a week as I could put together. So, let's see how it goes. Here we go. All right, let's calculate some numbers. So in case you're curious, it cost me exactly $30.04 to drive the Camry around for an entire week, which is obviously much less than the cost of doing with anything that I currently own. Let's see here. So we drove 357.2 miles and used 8.635 gallons of fuel to do it, and the real-world fuel economy of the Toyota Camry Hybrid is 41.4 mpg, which is not only less than the 42.2 mpg average stated on the display, but way lower than the 44 city, 47 freeway, and 46 figure combined. Well, that's a bummer. Now, the most curious thing about this all is that I drove the RAV4 Hybrid, which basically has the same electric powertrain, through basically the same exact conditions. And that's obviously a high-riding SUV with electronic all-wheel drive because it uses electronic motors at the front and rear axle versus this one having front-wheel drive. Despite that, that got 40 mpg, while this smaller Camry sedan got 41.4 mpg. I can't tell if that's more a demerit on the Camry or just really a testament to how impressive the RAV4 really is. So it's no doubt the 2020 Camry Hybrid is a very good vehicle, but unfortunately, The slightly less than advertised fuel economy, as well as the slightly higher than expected price tag, means that I just cannot recommend this vehicle over the current RAV4 Hybrid, which is truly excellent. For the same money, it's just as fuel efficient and even more spacious because the lifestyles of even more people. So, buy that instead.